21:24, one verse back from where we started in 25. Why are we going there? Because in that verse, Jesus speaks about a season. This is the last time that Jesus is in Jerusalem with his disciples before his crucifixion. And he's telling them what's going to occur because they asked him about signs of the times. And he tells them about a season of the Gentiles. In Luke 20:24, he says, the times of the Gentiles. Say that with me. The times of the Gentiles. And he's talking about people other than Jewish people in charge of Jerusalem. The times of the Gentiles is when the city of Jerusalem would be under Gentile control. And he speaks about the time of the Gentiles coming to an end. So when did it begin? When did it end? And what does it mean for us? First and foremost, I want to show you this timeline. Now understand that this timeline is not given in distance, but the dates are what's important. We begin at 598 BC, before Christ, and we get all the way down here to 2023, looking at the war that's occurring with Hamas. Beginning here at 598 BC, this is when most Bible scholars, and when I say most, almost 98% of them, tell you that the time of the Gentiles began because Nebuchadnezzar came to Jerusalem. He conquered the nation of Israel. He conquered the kingdom of Judah, and he took Jerusalem. He conquered it. In his conquest, he took people like Daniel and Meshach and Shadrach and Abednego from Jerusalem back to Babylon. How many of you remember those stories from VBS? All right. So this is when the time of the Gentiles began. When Jesus was on the earth, and he's having this conversation in Luke 21, talking about the season of the Gentiles, Rome is still in charge of Jerusalem. So the Gentiles were still in charge in the time of Jesus Christ. 600 years later, we're still in the season of the Gentiles. In this conversation that Jesus is having with his disciples, he tells them about something that is going to happen 70 years from the time that he's here on the face of the earth. You can read about it in Luke 21. You can read about it in Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, verse 2, he's telling the disciples as he's walking on the Temple Mount. And he says, do you see these things? And he's pointing to the temple that Solomon built and Herod expanded. He said, I'm telling you that not one stone will be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. He was speaking in this day about something that was going to happen right about here at 70 AD when the Roman Emperor Titus was going to come to Jerusalem and he was going to give the command. And this is a matter of historical fact, not biblical history. There are secular historians, Josephus Flavius, who writes these words. He said, Titus gave the command that when they went into Jerusalem to make sure that not one stone of the temple remained upon another. Jesus told the disciples about it 70 years before it happened. He's the God who holds tomorrow. So you have the time of the Gentiles beginning here 600 years before Jesus. And it goes all the way into modern era because from the time of Christ until 1948, you could not have found Israel on a map. Bible prophecy has a major event take place in 1948. What happened in 1948? David Ben-Gurion on May the 14th, as the head of the Jewish agency, announced the establishment of the state of Israel. Harry Truman, the President of the United States, recognized the nation of Israel on that very same day. This was a significantly prophetic date, but it was not the end of the time of the Gentiles. The time of the Gentiles doesn't just have to do with Israel, it has to do with the city of Jerusalem. And in 1948, Jerusalem was not a part of the state of Israel. However, the God who holds tomorrow, he told us in the syllabus 250 years before Nebuchadnezzar, way back over here, I didn't have enough screen. I might be expanding. 250 years before Nebuchadnezzar, he told the prophet Isaiah, has the earth seen such a thing? Shall it be made to give birth in a day? Shall a nation be born in a day? In Isaiah 66:8, 750 years before Christ, and 2,600 years before the War of Independence, the God who holds tomorrow was telling us that a nation was going to be born in a day, and that nation was Israel.